2013 Miley Cyrus was more than a moment of pop stardom. It was a cultural reset led by a tongue-dangling, sledgehammer-wielding former Disney Channel child star as she quite literally came of age in front of the entire world. Miley benefited from that IDGAF attitude that even if you don't like it, you somehow couldn't look away, scanning the headlines to see what Miley would do next, whether it was twerking on Robin Thicke at the VMAs or swinging in nude from a giant wrecking ball. All of this attention led to Miley's biggest album, Bangerz, an unruly pack of wild songs mainly produced by Mike Will Made It, meant to be exactly what the title implies. Bangerz somehow never left the back of my mind, so it's at the very least interesting, if not loud, unapologetic, and stupid catchy. Hey neighbor, my name is John, and this is I Got It Wrong, where I react to old reviews that I no longer agree with, then give an updated take with how I'm feeling now. Today's challenger is Bangerz by Miley Cyrus, as voted on by you guys in the community poll. My original review of Bangerz came out the week of the album release, and when I say it was hard to separate Miley's art from the artist back in 2013, that's an understatement. Miley's Disney show Hannah Montana ended in early 2011, shortly after the drama surrounding her lifestyle and the edgier 2010 album Can't Be Tamed, and that finally gave Miley the freedom to become the female rebel she'd been suppressing. Bangerz sold 270,000 copies at its first week in America alone, and is her only #1 album since Hannah Montana ended. Also, Wrecking Ball was her only #1 single until Flowers in 2023, so hopefully that paints you a solid picture of just how inescapable Miley Cyrus was in the pop zeitgeist. Now it's time to look back at my ancient past, 2013, John, the original review of Bangerz.
Miley Cyrus Bangerz, because it's all bangers, all club bangers, Miley said when speaking of this album.
Thank you for the explanation. We really needed that.
She has just been hyping up her name, and really it's been great promotion for this album. People say that she's an idiot, she's a slut, but really that's not what I'm here to talk about whatsoever, even though it does make its way into the music sometimes.
It makes its way into the music sometimes. I don't know that that's entirely true, John, but okay.
So judging by the singles that were both very solid, I was expecting, something that I actually might enjoy overall as a whole. But I started listening to this album, Bangerz, and I immediately, first half at least, just wanted to throw it out the window.
Wow. That's an intense reaction. I don't think I was really prepared for the overt pop sound and the overall nature of this record, and I don't think a lot of people were, and probably still are not receptive to this, and that is fair, but I also don't think I gave this enough of a chance.
Complete garbage. You got tracks like 4x4 featuring Nelly, Adore You, and don't even get me started on the one My Darling featuring Future.
Now that's fair. My Darlin, absolutely not a good collaboration, okay? Just over this sample of Stand By Me, that just felt disrespectful.
Lyrically, all the songs that I mentioned are just so cliche, and just musically, the experimentation, there's nothing going on really. There's nothing to mix it up from like regular pop songs.
It's an album called Bangerz, so I'm a little confused as to what I was looking for going into this.
4x4 featuring Nelly. There's something about the instrumental to me that sounds kind of cool. The guitar and the way it's done and everything, but the lyrical content is absolutely horrid.
That might be going a bit far. This song is actually a banger. It's like a country hip-hop anthem, and then Alt J sampled it in that song from their 2014 album, This Is All Yours, I'm the Female Rebel.
Then of course we have the title track, SMS Bangerz, featuring Britney Spears, which is very close to being my least favorite besides My Darling.
That's surprising to me now, because that song grew on me a lot, not necessarily because of one artist or the other, but I do think that Britney Spears works pretty well with the IDGAF vibe. Based on the clips I'm reacting to, it might sound like I'm a total hater of the album, but beyond the first two singles that I liked, there actually were some songs even back then that I was really into.
But then we get to the latter part of the album. We've got tracks that I absolutely really am into. Drive, FU featuring French Montana, and of course do my thing.
Bet you didn't expect to see me giving love to French Montana, but there I was. The proof is in the YouTube upload from October 2013.
Maybe you're right and someone else closed out the record. Someone else, that one has those electronic flourishes in there mixed in with some vocals and lyrics that actually feel like they mean something.
It's a nice closer. Coming back to Bangerz in the past few years and just giving it a listen here and there to see what I thought, that one rose to the top of the crop.
I just really wish the first half of Bangerz had been as great as the second. The album overall, it's a 2.5 out of 5 for me. Let me know what you thought about it.
That's fighting words to Miley stands at 2.5 out of 5 is relatively harsh, but that was my truth at the time.
Regardless if you think using sex to sell music is the right way of doing things or not, it works, and I guess, to each their own. Everybody's got their own marketing campaign, and this is Miley's.
It was not all necessarily orchestrated, but a lot of things kept playing out to her advantage, and I think that a lot of that pent-up energy made its way into Bangerz, for better or worse. I think I've gotten just a bit better at expressing my opinions since this review. Not that I didn't have any valid points, but in some ways, my mind has definitely changed, and the album aged a lot better than most would probably give it credit for. Miley delivered some killer vocals, intriguing collaborations, a few eyebrow raisers for sure, but also a ton of charisma bursting at the seams, demanding to be heard loudly. Wild child energy may dominate the track listing, but Miley was smart enough to splice in bigger moments of sincerity throughout. Adore You opens the album with subtle grace, spilling guts left and right with confessions of love that we don't often hear from her over a skittering drum beat and prominent piano. However, woohoo, it's song 2, We Can't Stop, that gives a more appropriate introduction to the chaos you're about to experience. It's certainly a form of musical whiplash, but it works out thanks to Miley's soft crooning, a buzzy synth, and a total earworm of a hook that still pops into my head at random times.
You say you love me, I ain't fooling with that. They ask me how I keep up, man, I keep a battery pack.
The title track, SMS Bangerz, features a nice interpolation of a classic Salt and Pepper track, laying on some choppy guitars that throw things into an industrial dance trance. It's dumb fun, turned up to 11, as Miley swaggers through the room with braggadocious lines, with Britney Spears hot at her heels. Collaboration was a major key to Bangerz, both with producers and the musical guests, with the next one being one that I did a crazy 180 turn on, to the point where it's hard to even relate to my disliking of 4x4 with Nelly the way I did over a decade ago.
We're driving fast.
Country crossovers rarely go down this smoothly, but Nelly was probably the right choice to add a double dose of southern charm to this off-roading adventure. The song captures the spirit of flying high, outrunning the cops, with a quirky Pharrell Williams instrumental to keep the energy really fresh. The album's first major speed bump is My Darlin, featuring rapper Future pretty early on in his career. They both whine incessantly about love over a putrid interpolation of Ben E. King's classic Stand By Me, stripping away the character and adding absolutely nothing in this mid-tempo mess.
We gon' make a movie, and it's gonna be 3D.
Oh, you're gonna make a movie, and it's gonna be in 3D. Well, guess what? 3D movies in theaters are a gimmick, and so is this. Wrecking Ball, thank God, rights the ship after that near miss, because if we're going into balladeering waters, I'm gonna take the sledgehammer over an iceberg anytime.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
Everyone knows this song, or would at least recognize its video, but if we're throwing anything out the window this time, it should be the music video, not because it's awful or because I have a problem with Miley's sexual liberation on the Wrecking Ball, because the song deserves to be remembered away from all the memes. I love the atmosphere and the synthy pulse. It's instantly familiar while not as chained to the early 2010s club sound as probably much of Bangerz is. Miley's vocals are enchanting, keeping you tied around her finger as she breezes through the pre-chorus before dropping the bomb on that explosive hook. We move into a pair of tracks I originally dubbed throwaways, which for sure, Love Money Party is kind of exactly that, but not a bad time. I've got a soft spot for a Big Sean feature, but the most surprising bright spot I failed to hear initially is hashtag Get It Right, thanks to its chirpy acoustic guitar nicely blending up the relationship metaphors, although the whistling is a bit much. Drive remains one of the album's cornerstones. Whirring and purring like a Ferrari speeding down the highway as Miley unchains her truth about a lying partner with some strong songwriting, a great sense of tension, and a change of gears bridge that ties everything together. French Montana guests on the rage quit bop F.U., which combines an older Motown sound of yesteryear with a wubbing beat that on paper should be way more obnoxious than it actually is because the song is a banger. Do My Thang is incredibly strange, like a fucking orangutan bitch strange, yet I never hated it. I almost feel bad for saying that, but maybe this is the definition of a Southern Belle guilty pleasure. It feels like Miley showing up dressed for tacky day at school, when in fact it was not tacky day, but fuck it, you gotta keep rolling and pretend that's how you meant to play your hand the entire way. She's able to keep the poker face up long enough to sell the pop rap crossover sleaze before transitioning into Bangerz' final act, a pairing of two more down-to-earth cuts that often go unnoticed, Maybe You're Right in Someone Else. The former is definitely weaker, sporting some generic-ass adult contemporary backing vocals and a predictable-as-hell chorus, but the power in Miley's voice calls to mind some of her earlier work, namely The Climb, Time of Our Lives era. The book of Bangerz closes on Someone Else, ramping up the tempo again for an evocative proclamation of emotion. The vocal layering makes things feel much more tangible, gliding over booming bass and poppy synths for an almost 5-minute ride that never takes its foot off the gas. Party culture has seen a huge decline since the club era that dominated music from the 2000s throughout the mid-2010s. Maybe that's why Bangerz hasn't exactly had the staying power or second life, at least not as an entire album, that I would have expected, since young people just don't seem to go out that much. I'm glad I've had some time to reflect on Miley's music again, especially Bangerz, and forgiving the speed bumps and a few generic tracks I couldn't care less about. It's an entertaining album that I'm upgrading from a 2.5 to a strong 3.5 out of 5. What did you think of my reappraisal of Bangerz? Has your opinion on the album changed? Take to the comments and let me know, and while you're down there, drop a like on the video and subscribe to ARTV. I've got another Miley review and an I Got It Wrong episode you'll definitely enjoy on screen, so tap those to keep watching, and I'll see you next time.